Coaches across the country used the Coachpad this past season to be more efficient with their scout card prep on the weekends as well as when out on the practice field working with their scout teams. Whether you're a coach using a computer program to create cards or drawing them by hand, the Coachpad is for you. Never printing paper or stuffing a binder, clearly seeing scout cards outdoors in the bright sun, and using the coach pad on game days, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline were some of the features coaches enjoyed this season. This offseason, get your coach pad at thecoachpad.com to get your program ready for next season. Thecoachpad.com.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have the defensive coordinator at Corner Canyon out there in Utah, Coach Cody Gardner. Coach, how you doing?
Really well, man. Really well.
Well, I mean, I don't really need to do an update. I mean, we're on and off all the time, and I think everybody knows. I mean, you guys win and all that lovely stuff. I mean, I don't know where to go first. I have a list. So here, let's start with there. Let's start. I mean, how's the Illinois game last night?
It's great, man. I'm not a huge fan of their coach. I just think that there's like a disconnect between him and his players. I'm a player's coach, right? So like the way he times like through the media or whatever, I just don't think whatever. So I think he has been better with some. He did call him out publicly the other day, but I'm not a huge fan. But they played defense last night. So like that's my problem is like they score, but like sometimes their defense is like it's one of those teams where like, well, we'll just score 90. We'll make 3 stops over the course of the whole game, and we'll win by 17. Like that's kind of how they play at times. And I think they actually bothered to play defense last night and actually rotate and jump lanes. So that was cool. And I don't know if it's just because Iowa State was a little bit shorter, a little bit slower, maybe not as athletic on offense. But yeah, like they actually get defense last night. So it was fun to watch. But yeah, it's always good to see, Illinois basketball. I follow, that's about all I follow basketball wise is college, is a little bit of Illinois. But yeah, it's good seeing their Elite Eight. They got their hands full to UConn. So
yeah, the resurging Huskies program.
So good.
Yeah, the program that like borderline died a couple years ago as research back to its prominence. So
what I hear the other day that they have between the men's and the women's program, they have like 17 titles in the last like 30 years or something.
And that's really taken like the last 5 years off.
Yeah, it's like 11-6. It's 11-6 split.
Yeah.
But yeah. And like so it's pretty crazy, to have that kind of basketball, and especially like in Connecticut, like it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I do wish it would have not been at 8:00. I mean, you guys in the East Coast were screwed. It was a 10-10 tip or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I'm old man. I was like, come on. Like, it was exciting. It was fun, but I was like ready to go to bed. That's for sure.
And then I was like, you posted something the other day. God, what was it? Food wise. And I was like, son of a, I'm trying to, I gotta pull it back up. But like you were like, I mean, I pretty much just troll your Twitter for funny, entertaining stuff about the Utah transfer portal, and because you have just asinine people. But it's really the food I look at, because you're always making stuff or buying stuff.
Yeah, we did pork chops that night. This went over pretty well with some guys. I did a shepherd's pie. I didn't post because it was like I've never really made one before, and it was dynamite, but I just didn't think about posting it. Yeah, man, the cooking stuff's fun. I enjoy it. I've been trolling more on Twitter. Like, so I always say I want to go rogue. I want to go heel, right? I want to just blast people when they say stupid shit, right? But like, I try not to be, right? Like, there's no real reason to be that way, or like, and truthfully, like, I do think that there could be negative consequences if I was like too much of a dick on Twitter eventually, or said the wrong thing, or got too aggressive. So like, I try not to. Like, I did a couple weeks ago get into a beef with a guy about, I called him a dork and he didn't like it, which was funny because he, I think, 300 people saw my tweet. One guy thought I brought in field corner as opposed to the boundary corner. And like, I'm like, dude, no one thought I brought that corner. Like anyone with an IQ above 40 knew that I wasn't going to bring the corner from the fast 3 side. Like, stop it. And then he tried to get into, oh, well, we would go backside. I was like, dude, you threw into bracket coverage. Like the fact that he never asked me what my cover, I could have been 3 high, brought the corner, and still had 4 deep. Like it was just, he was not all that great. But I also had the day off, so I was like excited to be a dickhead, and like I had free time. And so that's the thing, is if you catch me in the wrong mood, and that guy, the transfer portal thing, like it gets frustrating. Like I get why people are upset when kids leave. I get it. And we get kids that transfer in. But like they don't know me, right? Like I take great pride in my ability to like make kids better. And I'm going to coach who's here. And yeah, sure, I will coach the kids that come in, right? And the real thing is like a lot of times, like on the surface, it looks like it's for football. Sure. I just don't know that that's the reality. Every kid that's come in here is coming for other things too. Football is definitely a part of why kids have transferred to Corner Canyon, right? But I can't share the other parts, right? I can't be like, well, if you really knew what else was going on in that kid's life, maybe you'd understand why that happened.
Yeah, there's home life issues, there's academic issues, there's,
so many things.
Some families just want, let's be honest, mountains of Utah or the flat plains land of the Midwest.
Yeah.
I'm just going to guess. I've not looked up, but I bet the crime rate statistics in Utah are vastly lower than, I don't know, most other states.
Yeah.
A statistical guess.
Yeah. No, it's good. Like I almost had to transfer in high school, right? Like, so my stepdad was a junior high teacher, dean of students for junior high, finished getting his administrative certificate, right? And so through my sophomore, my junior year, he went looking for jobs, right? And if he's going to get a job, then that was good. We were going to go, right? So like, it came down to, hey, maybe this school or this school. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Like, I don't mind. Maybe I'll go to Illiopolis, would be okay. Well, he ends up getting a job in our district, right? So I didn't have to transfer. But right there, if Cody Gardner on his high school team was pretty good, right? 2-way starter, transfers to another school that's better in football, optically, right? And then like they wouldn't know that his last name was different than my last name, right? So even people that like were in my high school didn't know that was my stepdad whenever because I called him Mr. Lamke. Like I didn't call him by his first name. I addressed him accordingly. People had no idea. Right. So people would like MF him and bad talk him, and I would have to straighten him out a little bit, but like they didn't know. So like if I would have transferred, it would look like, oh, Cody left to go play some more better football. Right. And so like it's just that it's unfortunate. Like that there's things going on, right? And as somebody who stayed home and played where he lived and ate for 4 years, there's a small part of me that was like, man, maybe I should have went to that Catholic school in town, because I really love football, and losing for 4 straight years really made me not like football. It was like that was by the time I got done with high school, I was like, I want to play college baseball. I don't want to play college football. I want to play college baseball. Because football, I was so mad and angry because we were awful. And then I finally realized, oh yeah, you're fat. You probably need to play football and not play baseball because you don't run real well and you have no arm, right? I can hit it and then jog, but that was about all I had in my game, right? I had a pretty good glove, but so yeah, so it's unfortunate. And like I'm straight up with people. Like if you know me, then you know that's if you think I've done it, let me know, right? And like the other day, the guy was like, oh, I've got proof. And I was like, okay. And I put my phone number on Twitter. He didn't text me proof. Right? Like, if you've got proof, let me know. Like, go ahead. Like, go ahead, show me. Right? Like, and so they never do. So this is not the first time.
We've had this conversation off screen, and I've said this before on screen on other people. Like, I'm sorry, when you win, kids transfer in. I don't like it's not recruiting. Like, some kids just want to win football games. Like, it's fine. Yes, I'm not saying recruiting doesn't happen in certain areas and all whatever, but like you see it all the time in our state too. Like the rich get richer. You know why? Because they're winning. Like kids
Well,
want
and
to win a state title. And you typically, I'm just be also honest, those places that are winning typically have nice areas and they also have good academics and are probably good in other sports. And those kids, I mean, we talked already, but like you're talking about some of your football kids and how they run in track. They're running really fast.
Yep.
They're going to win in
Yeah,
track too.
and it's it's not a coincidence. We've had high profile kids transfer in and have great deal success, and then continue to have success at the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, pattern recognition. If you've got a kid who's in a struggling program and you want more exposure, I can see why parents would do it. But I'll tell you right now, no one's ever come here without something going on in that school or in that family. There's something going on at that school or in that family that that pushes them over the top. It's just the truth. It's just the God's honest truth. There's something, you know, right? It's never, we had kids transfer that are 4-star that already had the offer that they committed to. Why'd he leave? Well, he had reasons for leaving. It wasn't to get a scholarship or get exposure, right? It was more like there were other reasons why that happens. And so it's unfortunate that people can throw blame. And I've been in places where I told you, we talked about earlier, Park City, we were losing 4 to 5 kids a year. Families were moving. We had the Bartons, who were probably going to have 3 NFL kids. They moved to the next town down, right? And they took their NFL kids with them because the program wasn't great. And then they could save a ton of money living down there as opposed to living in Park City and all those kinds of things. So great move for them, worked out. 2 kids in the league, 1 kid at Utah. He's an animal, right? Maybe the best of the 3. And so, yeah, it sucked. But like what we did at Park City was we stabilized the program, right? It was, again, right? It was like we created enough worth and value at Park City to not leave. We treated the kids well. We started having success. We didn't have success right away, right? Our second year, we were 3 games under 500. First year, we go 500, 6-6, won a playoff game. Next year, we're 4-7, right? And now you got these kids that are going to be, our studs are going to be juniors, and we retained them all. No one left, and they're fluent. They could make a move. They could do what they needed to do. No one left because they were getting treated right. The families knew that what we were doing, and then we go to the semifinals that year, and then the finals the next year, right? And so it's swung. You have kids now from local areas are trying to get in there because it's, oh, that's a good program that puts out kids and kids get treated well and all those things. Also, like if you think about it, like look, they had a kid move in, quarterback move in last year, just for the connections in life. You know how many CEOs, kids he just played with? How many people like he made lifelong friendships at? Like there's value in that too. Like I think the Park City families get that. Like they use sports to elevate their college enrollment, right? So they have kids going to Princeton or Hopkins or places like that maybe academically couldn't get in, but because of lacrosse or something they get in, right? And like even like we had one kid who was like probably going to go to Princeton lacrosse, but he's like, well, if Stanford comes for football, I'll go to Stanford for football. And he's just like, just be for the contacts, the lifelong contacts and connections that you would make. The value of the I just saw something about this the other day. Someone was like, well, why would you pay $500,000 to go to Tufts or whatever for the course of your college, tuition or whatever versus some other place? And I was like, yeah, I get that. Right. But what you don't get is that degree is one thing, but it's the connections and everything that you build on campus that sets you up. That's what you're actually paying for. You're paying for the connections and legacy of that university. It's not, you're right. The degree doesn't really matter as much, but where you're set up for, that's why you pay $90,000 a year to go to that university, is because now you've put yourself in a subset of people while you're getting your degree. And so I didn't used to think that way, but then I was around a bunch of rich people and they changed the way I thought because they think different. No, they think different, dude.
It's all about connections, and that's true in every profession. And again, like there's a reason you see the same group of people in certain areas of the fields because they're all connected and they know people, and you're 100% right there. So I mean, the next thing I want to pivot to is I saw your post and I laughed hysterically, and because you posted about it, and then you sent me a copy of it, but is ranking your coaches in a text string, which I thought was hilarious. And I'm like, I should just do that. Like, it's just.
Yeah. So I think I'm funny, which is dangerous, right? So like, we like to have a good time. We like to joke. I think we all get along really well. It can be pretty brutal. It's a good coaching room. Like there's not a lot out of bounds, or like people aren't too sensitive. So I just was like, I'm going to rank these dudes, right? Like I'm just gonna let them know where they stand type thing. And really just to have fun, right? Make fun of guys a little bit, tease them a little bit. And we joke around that my algorithm, they can't figure out my algorithm, right? So like my one coach who was in last hasn't missed, I think he's missed like 3 morning lifts the whole off season so far. And he's like, how am I last? I've been there more than everybody else. And I'm like, it's a complex algorithm, right? It's a complex algorithm. Your value, you don't think that value isn't the same. So I'm like, you got the RPI, we've got the CGI, right? We've got the Coach Gardner index. And so, yeah, you just, mustache or weird stuff. Like we had a couple coaches show up with mustaches a couple of years ago. One was brutal. One guy, I called him Tim Selleck because it was like, it was just, it was okay, but it wasn't great. And just, we joke around, have fun. One, like the one I showed you, we had a coach had a little bit of a health. I'm a jerk. I make fun of a guy having a health scare, like I poke fun. Or the one guy, I kid you not, he had like a meeting out of town on Sunday with like, it was like up in northern Utah or whatever. So he drove like round trip. I think he drove like almost 3 hours round trip to get to the meeting and get back or whatever and stuff. And we had a 12-minute coaches meeting. It was like a Sunday coaches meeting at like 3:30. So he came in with like church gear on, tie tack, the whole deal. He shows up for a 12-minute meeting. And I was just like, okay, that's bonus points. Like that's bonus points. Cause like, I didn't know it was gonna be a 12-minute meeting. If I'd known, I would have told him not to come. But like he got done. I looked at him and I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I would have told you, I didn't know. And so he got bonus points. So he got moved up a little bit. But yeah, dude, it's all in good fun. Just like the guy that you gave a hard time that's an Android user and turns the text green, right? Like just stuff like that, right? Like so, like so and so still has an Android, he'll never get out of second place, like that kind of stuff, right? Like, but it's fun. It lightens it up. I think that's part of it. Just I think we like to have fun with each other, right? And get a good laugh at each other's expenses. So I do it. I do it every once in a while. And the funny thing is, like, they asked for the last one. They asked for it. They're like, hey, when's the next coaches ranking come out? I'm like, I'll do one right now. So I just put it out. I didn't put a bunch of detail. I just ranked them. But yeah, so it's fun. It's by no means serious. No means serious, but the offensive guys love it the most, right? Because they're out of it. I don't rank the offensive assistants or offensive guys. They just get to see me making fun of the guys from outside, so they're nice and safe. Yeah, they're nice and safe, so they love it. They crack up. They enjoy that more than anything. So
the safe offensive coach is just sitting over here, just like, nope, we're not in the fire range. We're just gonna.
Oh yeah. Like our O-line coach thinks I'm hilarious. Like I crack him up. I mean, like I get crazy and stuff, and he can't help himself but laugh at me. So it's good though. I said we like to talk. We talk a fair amount as a staff, and it's just another extension of, especially like we don't get to see each other as much in the off season or like in the summer and stuff. So it's a good way to like keep morale up. Like the one guy, our corners coach, just had his first baby last season or like last July, and he works full time and stuff. So like I don't ask it of him extra. I need you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. You don't have to come to walkthroughs. You don't have to come to Saturday film, right? Like I'm scared to death one day he's going to have to quit, right? Like, oh, I just can't with the kids and the wife and family. I don't want to have that conversation. So I just defer everything to him. Nah, you don't have to come. Don't come. And so I ranked him like 5th, I think, or whatever. And he was like, damn it. I knew I've been too inactive on the group chat. Like he hasn't been like, he's like, I got to start to send some emojis in every once in a while. He was like, getting on himself. He's like, I knew I should have wished you a happy birthday. It was funny how he was kicking his own ass because he got fifth. It was pretty good. So it's just a way to engage, right? Like, it's just anything to like have fun and stay connected to each other because we don't get to see each other a whole ton in the off season. So it's just a way to create morale. And for me to be a dickhead, it's a little bit of that, right? Like I said, it's dangerous that I think I'm funny. So.
Well, I mean, I'm with you there because I think well, let me rephrase that. I know I'm funny. And then when somebody feeds into that and tells me that, A, don't let them forget, and B, it just encourages me. Like, you get somebody to laugh, it just.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing is they want it, right? Like the assistant, like the offensive guys want them all the time. What's the ranking? What's the ranking, right? But like the other day, the defensive guys actually asked. And we were going to a clinic. So we're at the Utah had a coach's clinic on last Saturday. And we were going, and I was trying to see who wanted to go. I kind of was coordinating it. And so I was like, we'll get all this stuff going here. And then like my DB coach, who usually is the brunt of all my jokes, like he just takes it, right? And I was like, all right, give me a head count. And they're like, oh, I'm in. And then like he said he was in. And so I recapped everybody but him. And then like, all right, just final. I just want to make sure we're final. We have this many, this, and this person's going. He's like, me too. And I just ignored it. Right. So he's the guy, I mean, everyone's dying in the text thread, right? Type thing. So then I was like, all right, I'll put out the rankings. And so I put out the rankings in there. And then, of course he was like dead last or second to last or whatever. So, but yeah, he's the guy that catches the most of the jokes, which is, there's always the one guy on staff that does, and that's him. And so
the guy that you best with, like hardcore.
Yeah.
One year at Fairborn, our goal was to make one of our O-line coach cry. Me and the DB coach, that was our goal. Like that was our goal the entire year. The
one guy is a great guy. The one that's been at weights, he's a great human, right? And I put him last, right? Just because I knew it would bother him. Like if I put the guy that's the butt of the joke all the time, I put him last, it doesn't bother him. He knows he's last, right? And I put the other guy last, and he was like, hey, what the, that's the guy that I got the reaction out of, right? Like Blake, who's never out of the top three, was in like 4 or 5. And then the one guy who's been at weights and stuff and been locked in is always locked in. I put him dead last, right? So I got the reaction out of the two guys. One guy used to coach with us. He's not going to coach with this year. He was like second. So the guy that's not even coaches anymore outranked everybody type thing, which was fun. But the guy was upset or whatever. And he's like, fine. Because he's going to skip the coach's clinic, right? So he thinks I did it because of the coach's clinic. And this is where the CGI gets kind of crazy, the algorithm. He was like, fine, I got to put he was putting a water heater in for his mom, right? He had to go, him and his brother-in-law were going to change out this water heater. And he's like, fine, I'll tell my mom she has to wait. We'll do it, whatever. And it's essentially like he's going to push his mom's off so she won't have hot water or whatever. And I was like, and that's why you're last, that you would do that to your mother. Like, and I just unloaded on him, whatever. And then another one of our coaches is like, dude, it takes like an hour to put a water heater in. And then, he's like, Jesus, what kind of man can't do a water heater by himself in an hour? I did one last weekend in 45 minutes or whatever. Like, so people just started piling on him. It was so good. Yeah. It was exactly what we wanted. And so, but yeah, the rankings they're tricky. They're very, very, they're finicky. Sometimes being absence actually can help you climb the chart.
Wait, because you're not talking. You're not seen. You're not heard. Like,
yeah, you don't say something I can make fun of in the text thread. Yeah,
you don't become a target. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Whereas if you're there all the time and you say something stupid or do something wrong, people don't forget. Like,
yeah, it's good. That's fun.
I still bust people's balls for something they did like 6 years ago. Like,
oh yeah,
like,
oh, my subtweets, like sometimes I'll tweet stuff for one guy. Like, and he knows that was for me. He'll just send me a DM. That was for me. I'm like, you're welcome. Like, I'll literally subtweet one guy on something, some callback joke to something or whatever that has it's a complete non sequitur with everything going on. I'll just throw it out there. And for, like it's a guy I used to coach with, and he knows I'll subtweet him, and he'll just send me a text like dying laughing because no one knows the reference except for us.
You do the same thing to me. You troll half this, like several of the things I do, and I'll just send you a DM, just like, this is great, like, because I do it. Like, It's like, oh, just Cody. Just
I'm just having fun, man. Just having fun. Yeah, I don't like I said, like if I thought there would be no repercussions on my coaching or anything, or like really hurting someone's feelings. Like I don't really want to upset anybody, but man, I want to take it right to the edge sometimes. Like I wish I could just go heel on Twitter and just say some real all the time. Like my drafts. I don't know if you're like that, but my drafts are lethal. Right? Like my saved tweets that I never sent.
I had somebody say something to me the other day because I borderline almost crossed the line, like in person, like because I have no filter, so like that's why you see me very limited on like social media. It's usually like to the point or something, like it's YouTube related, because if I don't, it'll end bad. Like
Yeah. And that's like I said, like I want to, like there are certain guys that like I know I can screw with, right? Like Schiffman started that new podcast,
yeah.
and I was like, so how much do you talk in this one? He's like, enough. I'm like, I gave him the raw stuff. Like less. Like so I know like Tony, and Tony's gonna take it the right way, right? Like so there's certain guys you know you can mess with and have fun with, and like Coach Long and I will be brutal to each other, right?
Yep.
Publicly, it would be only because our private texts are 40,000 times worse, right? Like the stuff that we like, people are like, dang, dude. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. Like that's for public consumption. That's us doing it publicly as opposed to what goes down in our text messages to each other are ridiculous. So then that's the guy that has no filter. That is a guy who that like he'll like, hey, should I tweet this? And my answer usually is, if you're asking, it's no.
Yeah. If you have to ask before you put something out, it's always a no. Just no.
Especially with him. If it's like, I think I was tweeting this, I'm like, no, not a good idea. Not a good idea. That you'll throw out there without asking is brutal. So yeah. But yeah, no, it's good, man. Like, I don't know. I think Twitter. I mean, I was like the other day. Did you see the Bill Cosby P Diddy face like swap?
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, the internet is undefeated. Like the internet is undefeated, right? Like, and the fact that Twitter's free, as you can see on there, and
there's borderline no. Repercussions is a bad word. There's borderline no filter. There's some. It's
the Wild Wild West. It's the Wild Wild West. It's great.
There's some fact checking. Like there's a base filter. Like, hey, no, but most of it is 85% of it is there's no. Like and
dude.
And everybody can comment on everything. You can follow whoever you want.
Yeah.
And
well, it used to be even crazier, right? Like you could go in and actually edit someone's tweet and retweet it, like when you went to retweet, you're like, oh, I fixed it. Like I would love doing it to people, like take their like back in the day, take their tweet, go to retweet it, and then edit what they tweeted. It was the best. It's the best, man. That's why people are like, oh, do you do this? I'm like, no. Like Instagram, no. Facebook, no. I'm like, Twitter, the Wild Wild West.
But
it's not Reddit. Okay, like there's, it's not Reddit. I'm not going to that end of it.
No, but that's fully anonymous. That's a whole different level of, like, my wife will live on Reddit. Like she spends half the day just scrolling through and reading Reddit. Like that's her entertainment. Like
really,
got rid of most TV related things. Like I have obviously with YouTube, but like I'll just jump on Twitter and just scroll from entertainment. Like
doom scrolling's the best. Just trying to find trash. Yeah, but no, Reddit. Like Reddit, the rabbit holes on Reddit are nasty. Like I just can't do it. Like I'm like, I know enough. Like I can't. I just don't want to go there. No. I get enough of it on Twitter. So yeah, no, I enjoy it, man. Like the Twitter beefs. Like that's why my boss, we have Good Friday off or whatever, and she was like, "What are you gonna do tomorrow? Gonna get another Twitter beef?" And I was like, "No, I'm gonna be productive. I'm gonna get on a podcast and entertain myself that way. That way, I'm not just being an ass to be an ass." So.
Well, we can find something on Twitter. I can find something to tag you in later in the day.
Oh, I'm sure. That's even like, like the. Yeah, I try not to, man. I like who was it the other day? The Maines, Tyler Maines, or whatever, put up something about coaches having successful or getting whatever
The
with
sub
like
500 thing.
500 records or whatever. And I think he's sometimes he's just tone deaf. Like, I think I know what he means. Like, there's guys out there that keep getting chances, and there's a guy in Utah that I don't think has beat a team with a winning record ever as a head coach. He had 3 consecutive head coaching jobs. The first team he was head coach, 2 years after he left, they won a title. Right, leaves the other team. They had their best year in like 3 or 4 years. It's just crazy, but he keeps getting trotted back out. So I get that if that's his point, but like also like there are guys that are doing like really good jobs and are way under 500. Right, like it is what it is. Right, and like the guy that I first coached under, like I think he was probably right around 500. But then he got a job. His second job, he went to the state semifinals and went into Joliet Catholic on Rudy's Field, and beat Joliet Catholic. Like, he's a really good coach, right? The guy that took over for him got fired after being sub 500, and then he the next year as a DC went to the state finals. So it's not like, it's like, oh yeah, you look at their sub 500 as a head coach. Well, yeah, but they're really good coaches. They're just in a bad situation. Like, I mean, my coaching career, I think it's like almost exactly inversely proportional. Like, from being an assistant coach to being like a varsity, like the DC, it's completely flipped. Was that because I'm special or because I got in places that were set up to have success? Well, I would say that I'm not wholly different. I've gotten better, right? But I don't know that I'm wholly different as a coach from going 1-9 in Missouri to 13-1 last year. Like, I just don't know that I'm wholly different. I've gotten better. I've got more knowledge because I've just been in it longer, but I don't know that like I'm necessarily better, So that's where it's tough because, sometimes going 4-5 at some places is coaching your dick off.
Everything, like, I mean, it depends on your talent, your league. There's so many factors. Injuries, like you could be projected to have like on pace, like, oh, we're going to win 7 games this year, and then you just get slaughtered with injuries, and you could end up being 3-7 instead of 7-3. Like, there's so many factors. Depth. I mean, as I do. Like, I mean, you guys have a little bit more luxury right now, obviously, but like some schools, like you lose a kid, you might go from having that starter might be a D3 kid to like this kid shouldn't even be on the team really or on the field, is having to go out there. Like, there's so many factors. Like, now, can coaches help themselves? Yes, obviously. Like the systems you run, how you treat kids, recruiting kids in your building to come out. Like, there's ways to improve your odds, but like,
well, I think like what we were talking about is like it's a poor metric to a large degree. It's a poor wins and losses is a poor metric. I always tell people winning is hard. I'm much happier with the trajectory of my coaching career being, whatever I was, like 22-60 or 46 or whatever I was, because I just knew how hard it was to win every week, right? And now that I'm winning a lot, it isn't lost on me. If I won right away and then I'm going to then go switch my brain to what I did in the beginning of my career, it would have been tough. So like I've never lost the appreciation for how hard it is to win, but I really also think that like if you want to see why you're not winning in season, let's back it up 9 months. What were you doing in January, February, March, April? Like, what were you guys doing? Right? Because that's like football's crazy. Football, you're going to spend 95% of your time preparing for games, even in a given week, right? 6 days of practice, 5 days of practice, 1 day a game, right? So you're 14% of your time is playing, the other time is prep. Coaches, it's even more, right? And so it's like, well, what, because realistically, kids being stronger and faster fix all kinds of coaching errors, right? It is a gross motor skill, large prime muscle sport. It is not. It's not fine motor skills, right? It's not. It's pushy, shovey, hitty, right? Like that's what the game is. And so, if you're not in the weight room, if you're not spending the time building athletes, then what are you doing? Like, that's the thing I think that people miss out on is that, yeah, we have those 4 stars and 3 stars and those guys, but we also have like really good high school kids that have taken 4 years to develop that show up as a senior and can execute. Right. And so if you spend like, we don't have a lot of bad bodies in our weight room. Even our kids that aren't very good players, they can walk around with their shirts off. Right. Like, we've got kids, we train hard. And we like, so I would say like when we're 4 days a week, 6 a.m., 6 to 8, so 2-hour lift. And then we're blocked. So every other day we have our football class where they do speed, agility, all that kind of stuff. Right. And maybe we foam roll, maybe they recover, maybe whatever we do. Right. And then I would say probably 80% of our roster is in track. Right. And then beyond that, it's probably 95, 97% total kids are either between track, lacrosse, and baseball. We don't have a lot of kids not doing stuff. Right. And so if you look at it, like, our track team has actually been more successful than our football team. They've won like 5 or 6 in a row. And the reason is because we have all our best athletes. Our football kids are out there running. Well, they're getting speed and agility all. So now you got 2 hours of weights. You got an hour, 2 to 3 days a week, an hour, hour and a half in football class. And then you've got track practice every day. For development of an athlete, ability to run, move, explode, all those things. Like, there's a reason why when we get to the fall, our kids are explosive, our kids are fast, our kids are strong, right? Actually, the season gets easier because the off season's harder than in season, right? Because in season you got weight class, you got football class, and then you got practice, so it's actually less. And so our kids handle the load really, really well, and we're smart about like today. Like today we had real light numbers because we had a track meet Wednesday, Thursday. Today's Friday. 7 or 8 of our sprinters weren't there; they were sleeping in. Perfectly fine. Right. We understand that they, especially like the one kid receiver ran a 1, a 2, a 1. No. Yeah. He ran a 1, a 2, and 2 4s. So he ran the 4x4, the open 4, the open 2, and the 4x1. And so like gassed, right? Just gassed. And so, yeah, sleep ended. Right. And so, it's not militant, but like, people aren't putting in the time that we put in. They're just not.
Yeah.
And it's in the summer it's the same way. The summer we don't do a lot of sevens. We throw the ball. We have D1 quarterbacks every year. We don't throw the ball in the summer in sevens. We're running, we're lifting, we're getting our bodies ready, we're preparing, and then in July we'll start doing football stuff. But we don't like people like we got people in Utah. We got spring ball. People are doing practices. We'll go to our first 7-on-7 game tournament with about, I don't know, hour and 15 minutes of practice total. Right? Like, because we don't put a lot of weight in it. We're good. We're athletic. We're fast. We come out of track. We can all run. Right? So we just go with that attitude. It works out pretty well for us. Right? But like, if we went and laid an egg, we wouldn't give a shit. Like, because we know that like from the first week we get back from winter break until the 4th of July moratorium is about getting our bodies ready. And that's it. And then we'll worry about football when it's football time. But I think that if you want to see where your lack of success is coming in, go look at your buy-in in the off-season workout.
Yeah.
Because there's not a game there's not a person alive that was like, oh, I didn't mind him being stronger than me. Like, every one of us that's ever played knows that when you're stronger than the guy across from you, or you're in better shape, or you got a little bit more in the tank, life's easy. Right? Life's easy. So I think that's, I get it, but I would say is that like, you can control a lot of that in the off season, right? Like, you can be 500 or not 500 or whatever, but like, it's like, well, go look at that's making you not be successful. Right? But with that being said, winning is hard.
Yeah.
Right? There's a winner and a loser every game. There's a reason why we're all like, well, everyone's close to 500 because, well, it's the nature of the game. The outliers, the freaks, the Derek Leonards, the Eric Cares, right? That are, the guy I coach with, his record's something stupid like 83-11 or something at corner. It's absurd. You
Yeah.
know, they'd won like 50 straight at one point or some shit. It's crazy. You know, I've been around for the most losing. We went whatever. We lost 3 games 2 years ago because I suck. You know,
My last question is kind of like off-season prep. I saw you comment on it jokingly, but there is kind of a point to it. Like somebody posted about something about wide zone, and if you haven't been studying it because it's the fad, blah blah, and then you made a joking comment, but it's also slightly true. Like it's because of Kadudi and his hair. But like people like Kadudi or the NFL or even college, really, that's kind of the fad, so people rush into it.
yeah. Started 3.5, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
The
So like,
serious question is like, what, I mean, how do you prep for potential trends? Like, you're going, like, you're going to see stuff. You see it on offense and defense. Like the tight front became a big thing for virtually every high school in America.
3 high, all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I think you got to pay attention, right? And so where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So you start hearing about these RPOs, or you start hearing about, this wide zone. What's this outside zone? No, it's this, right? And I think what you have to do is, as a defensive coordinator, is that you have to have your antennas up, right? And when like the McVay, all the condensed sets, right? Everyone's going to copycat, right? So I think like if you're just now preparing for wide zone in your mind, you're 2 years behind, right? So, you know, I've been for a couple of years now. I've been working on stuff when I'm ready, when I see it, I know what I'm doing, right? So like some of the stuff, like doing some weird stuff, like being in a tight front and then having the walked up backer inside the tight end, right? So being like essentially 6-eye, 4-eye, 0, 4-eye, right? Being like, cool, you want to go wide zone? Okay, take it all the way out, just turn it stretch. Like we're gonna plug everything in here and make you decide where the reach, where the double, right? If you want to go wide, I want you to go even wider. Or you have to bend it all the way back, right? So being contrarian, right? Like a lot about defense is being contrarian, but I think when you see, like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire, you start hearing stuff or you see stuff or somebody's having success with something. Like if you think I haven't drawn stuff up for the go-go offense that Marion does with like the weird backs and shit, like I'm already working on that stuff, right? Like I'm drawing like, okay, where are my numbers? Where's my support? Where's this? Like, I don't know that I have to install specifically for it, but I think I have to have it sorted in my mind before I can start creating solution, right? And so, yeah, I think I pay as much attention to offensive guys and offensive trends as possible. And especially like when you see someone like Kadudi, he's an engaging speaker, tremendous hair, right? I've had a couple beers with him. He's a great guy. He'll sit down, what I'm saying? Like we had beers in Reno a couple years ago at the clinic, and you look at this guy and like he's proselytizing wide zone. He's a good looking dude. He's having success. This is going to catch on. Like you just know it's going to catch on. And so then you start seeing, oh, they're having success with it and they're having success with it. You're like, all right, wide zone's a problem. We better get ahead of it and start formulating some stuff now. Right. Like, well, I still think one of the best things ever happened to me was that when I got to Missouri, my first years at DC, we switched to like full air raid RPO.
Yeah.
And so I got to see air raid and RPO every day in practice. So whenever that hit and over the next couple of years, I had already had so many reps and so much experience seeing it every day and kind of understanding the install of it that I could start to adapt and filter some of my stuff to be like, okay, when we see spread RPO teams or air raid teams, these have to be our rules. And all right, well then can those rules be our standard rules? Kind of like option, right? If you have to change your option rules for an option team, not good, right? So if you're a squeeze down, overlap, all that stuff that we do versus option teams, like that's our base shit anyway. Like we install the option rules. Those are our run fit rules. If you have to change midstream for an option team, you're screwed. right? And so I think it's the same way with all these other offenses. Like, you got to know who's on your schedule and kind of know what's going. But like, as a defensive coordinator, your off season, you need to be looking at trends and looking at stuff and like how do we defend this, or what would give us problems, right? Um, no different than like all of a sudden like everyone was, everybody was 10 personnel, and then everybody went to 11 personnel, and now people are in that between, like they can bounce between 10, 11, and 20, right? So like without substituting, like, okay, well, how do we handle those switches when maybe we don't know it's coming because they're not bringing a fullback on or a Y on? Same stuff. We go, how do we become multiple? Well, why are defenses multiple now? Well, because of this. Why are defenses light? Well, because they're putting, like, we live in nickel because everyone else lives in 5, right? Well, now you see the NFL. The NFL switched 2 years ago. It was the most gap scheme that they'd seen in like decades, right? And it was these tight sets, and all of a sudden they're running inside the tackles because your defensive tackle's 295 pounds. All of a sudden now you're like, oh, we need a 330-pound nose guard again because the guards have gotten heavy. They're running power scheme, right? So it's zone, zone, zone. You know what's going to happen in 3 years? It's going to swing. It'll swing. The NFL's swinging towards heavier D linemen and power schemes and gap schemes, condensed set gap schemes, and doing all that kind of stuff like the Niners and all that stuff. So it eventually filters down, right? Like, and so you just have to be able to be like, okay, when we see these condensed sets or we see these heavy run sets and we're living in nickel, can we manage it in nickel, or do we have to have a change? So yeah, so I mean that's I think, like, if you're waiting until like that, like what if it's already on fire, it's too late, right? So for me, like I've been drawing up for wide zone for the tags. Like, we're just gonna play base. We'll play our base against it, right? But it's the adjustment. All right, we can't put that out. Like, that's giving us problems. What's our counterpunch if they're hurting us with wide zone? Okay, well, can we force them to run? Can we be contrarian? Can we make them, they can run it, but they're gonna have to run it be tighter or wider? And does that fit what they do? Can we challenge them from an alignment standpoint to have to change their aim points or not give them the easy read, right? And so that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's what I do, man. I try to stay ahead of that shit. Like, I've got 2 checks for wide zone that I've yet to run in the game because no one's running it out here yet. But if they do, I know exactly where we're going to go with it. So
It's quite surprising since BYU ran it so well for a couple-year period. You think that it would have fallen down a little already, a
I
little
don't
bit?
think that. Yeah, I don't think the O-line coaches at BYU the last few years have been very personable.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how much that's got shared. Also, like, Utah is it's a running state for a large part, right? A lot of running game, big linemen and stuff. It's been pretty gap or option heavy, right? So people do run zone, but it's not like when I was in Missouri, like, I think we had one split back veer team, and then we had one like I team, and then all the other teams were zone team, right? And so, yeah, I just don't know that. I think traditionally out here, it's been a lot of option and power run, kind of downhill gap scheme stuff. We run a ton of zone. We run gap schemes, but our line coach is a beast, right? So, but yeah, we don't see a ton of zone. We'll see some zone read and stuff, but nothing like. We'll see more GT and dart and that kind of stuff. We see more gap scheme than we do true, like, mid zone, outside zone. We'll see a little inside zone dive, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. I figured it was just filtered down a little bit more, just because I remembered, like, when those 2 were there before they left for Baylor, we're running the crap out of it. So
Yeah, like I said, like, I don't know how much it filters out. Like, I'm not talking negatively about that staff or anything. Like, I like those guys, but yeah, I just don't know how personable.
what you're saying is
They were.
I should tell Glazier that they need to put Kadudi in Salt Lake more, is what you're telling me.
Well, they don't. That's the other part too. Is no
Oh,
one. We
they
don't
got
get
rid of the
one
Salt Lake one, did they?
Yeah, because there's no people.
That's right.
Right. Like there's like, that's the thing, is like, you got Denver, you've got Reno, you got Vegas.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, Salt Lake is smaller than Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like, it's small. right? You can literally drive from the East Valley to West Valley in 15 minutes, right? I'm 20 minutes from the airport and I live in the southernmost part of Salt Lake. Like, it's just not a big town. And so the draw to bring Glacier in, now they can handle it because we have stuff, right? Like, we have the hotels and that kind of stuff or whatever. Like, we can handle that no problem. But it's like, well, how many people are going to come? Okay, well, how many of those people would rather go to Vegas or Reno or Denver through the weekend?
Well, it's like we had 2 in our state. Now we're down to 1. They got rid of Cleveland's a couple
Yeah.
years ago. Like, just not enough people went to it. The people would
Yeah.
go to Indy, Cincinnati, and Detroit.
What? And I was spoiled, man. When I was in Springfield, Illinois, like, I go to Chicago, it's 3 hours. St. Louis is 1:45. Same thing that we'll go over to Indy. I could go to 3 glaciers. We had the U of I clinic, which was in Champaign, right? Like, it was so easy. Now I got here and I'm like, we're just stuck in the middle. Like, one year we went to Chicago for glacier, one we went to Reno, but like, yeah. And then even like the Utah clinic this weekend it's fun, but there's not a lot of X's and O's. There wasn't a lot of teaching. We had like 3 breakouts. They had Urban talked, and somebody else talked, and then we watched practice. Practice was fun. I got to watch our guys. Right? I got to watch Isaac throw and stuff, so that was fun. But it wasn't a huge, like, people weren't learning a whole lot, right? Like, and then even like I went in and listened to Scally, the DC talk. And he was talking a bunch of shit, which I don't run, but it was cool to hear it. It was actually, I probably learned more because I just have never spent a ton of time in the one high world. And so, and I've kicked every that's talk about off season. Every off season, I kick around like going one high. Like, I don't know why I do it to myself because I always end up saying it's stupid, right? But then but it's like every off season for the past 10 years, 2 of the 5 things I've looked on is goal line defense because I can't figure it out. I just never feel settled, and one high. And so I studied them. I try to study them as much as possible, but I always come back to, okay, I'm not running it, and I know what we do in the red zone, but we'll figure it out. Like, that's literally every year. And I don't know how to get past it. But he did bring up some some stuff that, like, if I ever did go one high, because I'm thinking about, I don't know, I'm thinking about going from my 3-4 and building back into like a 3-3-5, 3-3 stack, right? And going cover one. So essentially back to my 3-5 days at Park City,
Roots,
right?
yeah.
But I didn't ever run one there. I didn't ever run one. We played 3, quarter, half, or I subbed and we went 2 high. But I'm thinking about doing one, playing cover one, and then for the blitz angles. Because like right now, like if I have my 3-4, if I bring the field or the boundary, they can go C get, B get, right? But you kind of see it's coming. Or the mic or the will, they can go A, B, or C, but you kind of see it coming. When I put all 3 in the stack, I can bring, now they're close enough that I can bring any 3 of them to any of the 6 gap.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I'm like, that's intriguing from a chaos standpoint. But then again, like if I'm going to do that, I'd be able to coach us up and cover one. And so might have been a good thing to hear some of the stuff he was saying. We'll see. I'm closer to playing cover one than I ever have been. I'll say that much, which is pretty rare. They'd be like, man 2. Like, at least I install man 2 and work on it, and then I never call it. We don't work on cover one very much.
That's virtually like every high school coach in America is 2-man. We install it, and then you just kind of, you might run in some 7-on-7 just to be cute, and
Nope.
then you don't see it the rest of the year.
Yeah, I don't even run it in 7s, and like there's times where I should, and I just don't. Like with the championship game, Long was like, run 2 man. I'm like, he's like, run 2 man. It was like 3rd and 12. I'm like, no. I probably should have. I just don't. Right. And so, and it goes back to because I've run it and it didn't. I get so mad when I'm 2 man because I'm like, all right, I'm conceding to the fact that like we're going to suck against the run. Right. We're going to do this, but we are not getting beat deep. And then we get beat deep. I'm like, well, why the hell am I running this thing? I might as well go 0 and bring 5 or bring 6. And so that's then I'm fighting myself on the sideline, which is always entertaining. But yeah, that's my problem. It's like I'd really go zero and just bring it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I could spy the Q, bring pressure, bring 5, spy, and play 0. And so, that's kind of what I want to do. And then 2-man, I'm like, I just drives me nuts if we get like an easy completion in 2-man. But I guess that's my own. We all got our things, right? Like
We all have our love-hate relationships with certain things that we just can't get past. And
yeah, and that's the same thing with cover 1. I'm like, just play 0 and bring another guy. Like, I mean, that's exactly where my brain goes. Why would I do that? Why would I just waste that guy in the middle of the field? The only time I run cover 1, and I'll tell you the truth, the only time I run cover 1, do you ever do that amoeba or like where the guys just mill around like they're lost at the line of scrimmage?
I don't, but I've seen it. Yes.
Okay, so we call that radar because they're like popping up and down off the radar, and we have kind of loose rules on it, right? But like they're high school kids, they get way too excited if I call it, right? And so we always play cover 1 in it because I need that safety in the middle of the field because so if they up and double gap and they run the ball, like we have a chance of maybe stopping it, right? And so it's automatic. It's radar gold. That's it. Cover 1, and the one year we ran it right before half, we were up pretty good, so I was being a dick running it, and they push motion the running back. I've got 6 guys milling about. My Sam Backer, we're in cover 1, that's his guy, right? Not only does he not leave, he's on the far side. And my safety just sees his hands go up like this. Like, what do you want me to do? Right? Because he knows the only reason he's in the middle of the field is to stop a run breakthrough. If it's like QB draw, he has to be there. But the good news is they snapped it and didn't block. They blocked 1 guy. We had 5 free runners at the quarterback, so we got away with it. But I was like, oh no. So yeah, we don't run it very often. We ran it like I ran it for senior night, the first play years ago, because we had a bunch of seniors, but like we couldn't get them all on the field position wise. So I was like, we'll play gold radar, and we'll just put all these guys on the field. So I literally had like 5 D linemen on the field or whatever. Like we just whatever we did, but yeah, it was pretty good. They ended up getting. I think they got like a 7-yard run because I was being stupid. So.
All right. Well,
so food wise, man, yeah, food wise, I've been getting pestered to start cover 2 and barbecue again, so I think I'm going to.
But you say that every time you're on with me. We have this conversation every year. We have it every year. I'm asking when there's more episodes, where can we get them? And you give me the same answer every year. Well, I'm looking at this, or we'll buy this, or
nope. I'm telling you, we're gonna have them. We're gonna have them this spring. Back on the YouTube channel. Got some good stuff cooking. Got some stuff working. I'm gonna do the brat burger thing. I'm gonna show you guys how to make brat burgers.
Oh, I saw the pictures of that. It looked good.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you just cut a brat open and make a patty out of it, right? But like, it does cook way quicker and like it's easier. Especially like I said, I forgot to buy brat buns. I had hamburger buns, so we made the pivot. But no, it's coming. I promise, it's coming back. It's coming back.
Needs to. It was good.
It's good. It's fun. Yeah, I've got some. Yeah, it's coming back.
Oh God. Yeah, no, that would be. So,
it's coming back.
Yeah. Check out. I mean, as normal, I'll link his YouTube channel in here. So at some point, he may or may not post episodes of that in there.
It's coming.
He's got some football stuff on there too. So, but like, that's what the people want. The coaching community wants the cover 2 barbecue.
Yeah, they do. And like I said, I've got it figured out. I'm going to do it. I've got all the stuff I need for it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be good. I'm going to stop being a turd. I'll actually do it and have some fun with it. So yeah, no, it's coming back because I like doing it, and I think it's a fun thing to do. So, and I'll just I'm going to get over my dislike for editing. That's the issue. It's not the shooting. It's not the content. It's the editing I don't like to do.
Well, yeah, I don't like editing either, but you just do it to get it over with. That's
yeah. Totally. So But yeah, that's the reason I don't do it, because I don't want to edit. So got that going, and then Long and I are starting a podcast called Real Odd, because we're right. What a great name, right? Because we're odd as hell. We run odd fronts, so we're going to start one of those too. Which that's probably what will ultimately get us fired. Us being on a podcast.
That's when you need edited. That needs a heavy-handed filter, like because you're gonna film like 3 hours at a time, and about 45 minutes maybe will be usable.
Dude, we shot our pilot. Like we just shot one or whatever, and the first 15 minutes is unusable.
Yeah.
Unusable. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, we can't do this. Like, I mean, I said one thing and he went on a tangent. I said something about like, oh, we're doing this to help like I said servicing the community.
And it
And he
went
was like,
that direction, didn't it?
and he was like, servicing? I'm like, Jesus, dude. To be a service? He goes, that's better. And then we just derailed. It was like, good God, Long. Like, you're a child. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, of course, then, it's one of those things too, is like, do you lean in it? And so I leaned into it. I just went. So we both just went straight sideways for 15, 20 minutes.
Because
And
you can just cut it out. That's the thing. Like you can just.
Yeah, but I'm tempted not to.
I know you are, but you know better. Like
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, is like, I think we do a good job like touching the line, right? Like we get right up to the line. I don't know. I the thought was like to bring the coach's office a little bit to. It probably needs to be behind a paywall, right? If it's behind a paywall, it'd probably be better for us, right? But I also don't feel like making people pay $1 to come listen to me and Long make fun of each other for an hour, right? It's entertaining, but like it probably needs to be like some sort of paywall to protect it a little bit or whatever, and because that would be fun, because that's the goal. I would love to bring that like the text thread, the coach's office.
Well, that's
where
where
we
you put it like on a Patreon and then charge like 50 cents a month. So because
Right.
you don't want it, because it's something stupidly low. So, but at the same time, that way it's not like getting like subtweeted over and over again. That's going to get you in trouble.
Well, exactly, right? Like where like it's getting around too easy or whatever. So yeah, so like that's the whole thought, was like maybe if it gains any traction and we want to do the behind the scenes one, or the unedited, the raw version of it. Because I think that would be fun. I think as far as coaches, I think it would be entertaining for our, because like that's I don't know, I think that's part of half the fun of it, is like the coach's office, right? The stupid stuff that we do and say and make fun of each other. The running joke. Like you said, you got running jokes from 6, 7, 8 years ago that you still bring up or whatever,
Well,
right? And 100%. So I don't know that that's out there. Like I don't need to be that. I don't need to be talking X's and O's a ton. Like I will. I know my X's and O's, but like I just don't think that's where I fit in. I think food and then being a little bit funny. I think that's kind of probably where I can contribute, right? Like we don't need 20 guys talking X's and O's, right? Like I don't, just don't. And so I think like what you do with the interviews are great. Right. But like, I think that we've got that's already been filled. We have guys doing that, which is great. But so I think maybe like the cooking show, no one's doing that. And then, maybe a little bit more of a coach's room, kind of chopping it up. We'll talk stuff and like the Twitter stuff, or like you said, the transfer stuff, like what's going on currently in your like the statewide, or even talking about like, I think like how Utah does some stuff is just completely backward, right? Like I think that I think the classifications could be done better. I've got my own feelings about that, right? Like I think they have regions, and I think the regions are problems, because I think there's teams that like we have teams that go like they remove themselves from playoff contention and they go independent because they can't compete at that level. And so they're going to lose every game. So they're like, well, we'll just go independent. We'll forego the chance at playing in the playoffs, and we'll just go play schools that are a third our size and still not win a bunch of games. Right. So it's like, well, couldn't we just get rid of regions, let you schedule your schedule, right? And then you go into the playoffs by your rankings, like by your seeds. Like you're a 4A school, but you can play whoever you want. And then that way, at least that team could schedule whatever they want. And then if they're lucky enough to get in the playoffs, then they go get thumped in 4A. But at least they're having some success. Whereas, like, you're a 4A school, you can't compete with 3A or 2A schools, but you're going to put in 4A, you're going to lose every game in region. And then you're still going to go to the playoffs as a 1-8 team or a 1-9 team, get knocked out of you. Not a lot of fun. And you wonder why those programs are wilting. It's like, well, take your foot off their neck. Let them schedule whoever. Even like for us, like, we have trouble scheduling. People don't want to play us, right? I get that. But if we had an open schedule, we'd schedule the 5 teams that want to play us, and we would find 5 other teams to play us, right? We might have to travel more or something, but like, realistically, it would be, it's a little bit more open. It's a little more easier to navigate those things. So like Long and I talked about that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, I think that's food and funny. I think that's the goal, or at least my version of funny. So.
All right. Well, coaches, A, check out his YouTube channel. B, you can just type in his name. You'll find him on a bunch of stuff, my channel and other channels and all that lovely jazz. Like, share, subscribe, check out Coachpad, and that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer Podcast.